What's going on, people? Myke C-Town here with another episode of What Do You Want to Know? Where you ask your question. If I like your questions, I answer your questions on camera. I'm going to jump right into this because this is actually a topic that I'm interested in discussing. So, the question I have comes from Travis Bryan, and he asks, why do you think people get upset when someone has a different opinion to theirs when it comes to music? And do you think it hurts the music itself? So this is a really interesting question considering the events that have happened in the last month or so. This shit came right on time. So I think about this topic a lot, actually. And when it popped up in my email box, I was like, yes, let's go. So the reason this question really resonated with me right now is because of a few instances that have happened over the past month. Of course, anytime I state publicly that I don't like something, a bunch of goofy goobers will flip their shit and start attacking me over my opinion. So I'm fairly used to this, but recently there have been a few instances that were pretty nuts. One being me saying that I really didn't enjoy the movie One Cut of the Dead. The other being me not liking this new Kanye album, Jesus is King. Now, I'm not going to go into detail as to why I didn't like these projects. I'm just going to discuss the reactions and why I think this happens. The first reason I think people get really pissed about other people's opinions on art is pride. People like themselves. People like their brains. They think that their opinions are correct, and any dissenting opinion they view as a threat to them. Some people are too self-centered to accept someone else's opinion because that takes a bit of humbleness. You know, you have to be humble enough to say, okay, there might be a bit of nuance in this situation, so maybe what I think is not the be-all, end-all fact. Another thing, a bigger thing, is insecurity. An insecure person looks for reasons to validate themselves because this gives them a sense of self-worth. If they feel insecure in general and you're telling them something that they don't see the same way, then this creates a sense of self-doubt, and insecure people really can't handle or process this. Insecurity can lead to being involved in groupthink. If you have a whole lot of people telling you that this opinion is the correct one, even if you didn't initially agree with that idea, your brain will create this perception that this is true because it's easier for you to tell yourself that you agree with this group and get an immediate sense of validation than it would be to go against the group and have to struggle with your ideas being labeled incorrect. In case you're unfamiliar with groupthink, Wiki says, groupthink is a psychological phenomenon that occurs within a group of people in which the desire for harmony or conformity in the group results in an irrational or dysfunctional decision-making outcome. Group members try to minimize conflict and reach a consensus decision without critical evaluation of alternative viewpoints by actively suppressing dissenting viewpoints and by isolating themselves from outside influences. So to me, groupthink is basically designed to stop discussion or debate before it can even start. The collective group has already made its mind up, and any alternative opinion would be viewed as a threat to the group itself. So anyone from outside of that group would typically be afraid or apprehensive about even stating their opinion if it's not the popular opinion, because they know they'll be seen as in the minority and essentially wrong. Typically, I find that people who are stuck in this groupthink idea are those who really have a hard time expressing or breaking down their opinion, or they don't have an actual real opinion at all. They simply parrot the opinions of louder or more popular people. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that in itself. Not everybody's able to express themselves clearly and coherently. I have that problem a lot. But the issue comes in when, because of your inability to express yourself, you latch onto the words and essentially the opinions of others, you present them as your own, and then you vehemently defend them against anyone who disagrees. And when someone questions that, your excuse always falls back on, well, everyone thinks this, so how can you think differently? And that's where the One Cut of the Dead and the Kanye situation started. So as an example, the One Cut of the Dead issue, that came because someone asked me to check the movie out and let them know what I thought. I watched it and I reported back on Twitter that I felt it was one of the worst movies I'd ever seen in my entire life. And it is. You know, my opinion is that it was terrible, and that's no disrespect to the filmmakers. Wasn't my thing. at all. And these fools, I won't name names, but they came out of the woodworks flipping out because I didn't like it. You know, my tweet is basic and my opinion on movies is ass. This is easily one of the best movies in 10 years, which, how the fuck do you even prove that? Like, that's ridiculous. And a lot of them fell back on the excuse of, it's critically acclaimed, so how are you saying it's bad? Now, implying that because something is critically acclaimed that you must enjoy it is one of the most idiotic implications that anyone can make. Saying you didn't like it is not the same thing as denying its impact. It's not the same thing as saying that it should never have been made. You're simply saying that you, one person, did not enjoy it. What the fuck does that have to do with critics? And more so, what the fuck does that have to do with you or your enjoyment? And this is what I'm talking about when I say that there's an issue of insecure people who fall victim to groupthink. To them, a large group of people say this, so therefore this is a fact. And the fact that they don't understand how ridiculous this is when concerning subjective matters such as art, it's just mind-blowing to me. The same sort of goofy ass thing happened with this new Kanye album, Jesus is King. Personally, I hated it. If you want to know why, go watch the Dead in Hip Hop review. But if other people liked it, that's fucking great for them, you know? I do think there's a conversation to be had around blind fandom, but that's for another video. At any rate, I got into a discussion with a few people who were cool enough to disagree respectfully, but there were some other absolute fucking dipshits, okay, who were attacking people who disliked the album. One of which being someone who I was following, someone whose YouTube videos I had previously enjoyed. But after our conversation, I think he's an absolute fucking clown. Attacking publications for giving the album an extremely low score. Claiming that if you find no redeeming value in this album, then you are a clout chasing idiot, okay? Which has to be one of the most asinine things I've ever heard anyone who claims to be open-minded about music ever utter. And he wasn't the only one. If you're saying that there's only one or two good songs on this album, you're wrong. You clearly don't understand the album. How the fuck do you know who understands what? You don't, exactly. And it's when people have super strong views, or they purport to have these super strong views, to the point where they can't see past their own limited perspective. And that's what's going on with these guys. They can't understand someone not enjoying something that they enjoy because in their feeble brains, taste, music or otherwise, is factual. It's almost funny when you think about it. These people can't understand two different people hearing the same thing and processing it differently. It always brings me to this question of if these kind of people will walk through the grocery store and stop strangers who have, say, a bag of chips in their cart that they don't happen to enjoy, and do they say, "Excuse me, but why do you have those chips? Why are you buying those chips? I think those chips are disgusting, so I don't understand why you would be purchasing them." And if you're one of the type of people that I've been talking about and you heard that last scenario and you're like, well, that's pretty dumb. That's how dumb y'all sound, okay? Attacking people over liking or disliking something in an adverse way to you. They have convinced themselves that their opinion is the only correct one, and their ego tells them that this cannot and should not be changed. So they seek out others with a similar opinion that can validate their own, and the mob mentality starts, and then they start attacking people who have a different opinion. And this leads right back to the groupthink idea that I spoke of earlier. Now, you asked if this hurts music. Opening it up past music, yes, I think it hurts art in general. In my opinion, art has a myriad of different purposes for existing. You know, it could be to communicate ideas, it could be to convey emotion, or it can be to just exist on its own for its own sake, meaning it doesn't actually have to have a purpose at all. But I think art criticism is important because it creates a conversation around art. And in my opinion, it kind of keeps art alive. You know, I also think that criticism can help the artist when it comes to their missteps as far as conveying an idea, if that actually was their purpose, or that criticism can help the audience understand what the artist may have been trying to convey. This is not the same thing as telling an audience how to enjoy something, because that's absolutely ridiculous and impossible. But I think the act of attacking those with different opinions about art pieces is very dangerous, because when everyone agrees on the purpose and the quality of a piece of art, I think it stagnates art in general. It keeps art from wanting to challenge itself and its own community, and it prevents it from wanting to challenge the ideas of the current world. So people who have these ridiculous and immature attitudes towards art really need to understand that they're doing no one any favors, with the one small exception of their own fragile ego. I feel like I could probably ramble on for another 20 minutes about this, so I'm going to stop here. But I would love to know your opinions on this. How do you feel about people who get very angry, especially towards strangers, when it comes to how those people process and consume art? Let me know in the comment section down there. Let's try to have a mature discussion about this. We'll see how that goes. But I don't know. As usual, thank you for living, thank you for loving, thank you for being you, and I'll see you guys next time. All right? Peace out. Boy.